Hi folks, I apologize for the glare back here. It's just the nature of this backdrop, and I don't want to close my blinds because the sun, Los Angeles is finally, I think, hopefully, we'll have our few backs and forths. I mean, it's the end of February, but it's a 75-degree day here, and it's beautiful, and the sun is shining, and more importantly, Valentine, my cat, is sleeping there, and the sun is on him, and we have not necessarily in the past few days had sunny days, and he's older, and I find that he is healthier when he has his sun time. And those of you who have cats know that they need that sun times for mysterious reasons. So I'm loath to disturb his siesta by closing the blinds, and this is the only cost that we have to pay for it. I wanted to do this video. I wanted to do this video for a little while, for a couple of reasons. During January, I was offering the special around discounted readings for anyone who wanted to get a sense of how 2025 and the astrology of 2025 was going to interact with their birth chart. And a few things came up as I did those readings. But even more than that, I'm seeing a certain amount of it's not really noise because there's some accuracy to it, but advertising 2025 as the year when energy shifts and energy changes. And of course, what is being referred to is that in the middle of this year, and indeed for a planet like Neptune at the end of March, the slower moving outer planets, specifically Neptune and Saturn and Uranus, are changing signs. And so there's a certain amount of advertisement. Wow, that's really glary. Anyway, just bear with me and let's have fun. Sorry about that. There's a certain amount, but there's also a certain kind of sort of advertising. You know how, this is why I will do my weekly overviews, and I will always say it's rarely on the day of an aspect that you feel that aspect. There's a lot of kind of sensationalism with astrology on the internet. Everything from this is a wolf moon, and this is a this moon, and that moon, all of that is accurate, but sometimes it's just like, we have full moons every 28 days, and our world is not rocked by every full moon. So there's just, very often things accumulate over time, and it's not as if people don't make dramatic choices and decisions, but it's rare for that kind of lightning strike to happen. It does happen. I mean, we just had the fires here in Los Angeles. That was a lightning strike, if ever there was one. A Monday afternoon, there were people who were still in their homes, and then Tuesday afternoon, those homes were gone. And, and Monday evening, people evacuated. I mean, I'm talking about people that I know. So it's not as if lightning strikes don't happen, but and then when those lightning strikes happen, it's rare that the astrology predicts it in advance. So, I would say take all of this with a kind of grain of salt, but there's a certain amount of advertising. There's a certain amount of sensationalism around 2025 being the year when the energy changes. And what's really going on, which everyone seems to be relatively clear about, is that these three planets, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, change signs. But since they are slower moving, they also, like they do every year, go retrograde. And then they retrograde back to the signs that they currently are in. And they tie that up. And then finally, if we're talking about the energy really shifting in a final way, it happens in 2026. Now, that does not mean that a planet entering a new sign is without an energetic shift. But I wanted to kind of get a little factual and get a little real and kind of pin the sensationalism to a certain amount of reality in this hopefully relatively brief video. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, we have a certain consistent energy that takes us. There's three phases to this year, if we were to look at it broadly. One phase takes us to the end of the first week of June. You guys have heard me talk about it forever and ever and ever. The next phase takes us from around that time. Some may even say, and there are certain overlaps to these phases. One phase takes us to the end of the first week of June. And that phase has to do specifically with utilizing Saturn's energy to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart to the best of our ability so that we can take advantage of the last of the Aries North Node eclipses on March the 29th. And with a North Node new moon solar eclipse, I find that 2 months after that date, so May 29th, the week before and week after, can also carry a strong resonance. Some people might feel the eclipse, the solar eclipse then. And particularly if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, it may be that you feel that March 29th solar eclipse accelerate as you get to the week before and after May the 29th, because when the March 29th eclipse happens, Mercury is retrograde, and those people who have Mercury retrograde in their chart may feel that eclipse more the week before and after March 29th. So one phase takes us to the end of the first week of June, because the week after May 29th takes us to the end of the first week of June. The second phase, I think, starts with Saturn coming into Pisces in May, Saturn going into Aries in May, and then coming back into Pisces in September. And that's what I will call the second phase, when Neptune and Saturn and Uranus, and I'm going to go over these dates in a second, do switch over. And so over the summer, let me just use that word slightly loosely, but over the summer, the planets do switch over, and I think a new set of energies announces itself. This is also compounded by the fact that Jupiter changes signs from Gemini to Cancer on June the 8th, June the 9th. So again, we have that end of the first week of June being an important marker. And Jupiter changes signs every year and spends 12 to 13 months in every sign. And right now, thankfully, Jupiter's spending those 12, 13 months in one sign. You know, around 2020, 21, 22, Jupiter was doing this thing where he would spend a certain amount of time in sign 1, then go into sign 2, then retrograde back into sign 1, then retrograde then direct into sign 2, then back. And you know, those kinds of 12 to 13 months in bits and pieces are now behind us, and Jupiter now is spending 12 to 13 month windows and chunks in one sign, and therefore in the house occupied by that sign in your chart. I use whole signs, WHOLE, so I can say that comfortably. Again, I will apologize for it's so interesting how the lighting affects it, and it's not as if the sun is shining directly on it. I have to tell you, the sun is shining that way. It's just the brightness. I think it's the contrast, actually, in where I'm sitting. So phase 1, where we currently are, and currently in the heart of, is going to March and April are the critical months of that phase month that takes us to the end of the first week of June, and then May, June, July, August, Saturn moving into Aries, with Neptune already in Aries, and Uranus moving into Gemini. I do think that there is an energetic shift over the summer months. And then after September, from September of this year to February, the middle of February of next year, 2026, we're in phase 3, where again, it's Saturn in Pisces with Neptune coming back into Pisces that ends up taking priority, as if to say, whatever it is since 2012, because Neptune has been going over Pisces since 2012, that we want to stabilize, structure, capitalize on, set boundaries around, reach compromises around, needs to be finalized more, completed between September of this year and February of next year. Let's just call that closure to a cycle that's been going on since 2012. And then after February, we really are in those new set of energies. When we have energetic shifts like this, the prevailing discourse on the internet is about the new set of energies in any given year. And I disagree. I think that 2025 is the year primarily of Saturn in Pisces. And yes, for May, June, July, August, for 4 months of the year, for a third of the year, Saturn is not in Pisces. But it's when planets are leaving a sign, and therefore the house occupied by that sign, that the urgency to make the most out of that transit is most keenly felt. So the urgency, I also say this because the North Node is now in Pisces, and the North Node eclipses are very clearly on the Pisces-Virgo axis as the year progresses. The only eclipse, there are 4 eclipses this year, the only eclipse that is not on the Pisces-Virgo axis is the March 29th new moon solar eclipse in Aries. Outside of that, the March 13th lunar eclipse is in Virgo, and the 2 eclipses in September are in Virgo and Pisces, or Pisces and Virgo, I should say. And so the emphasis is really on the house occupied by Pisces, and some of that emphasis remains all the way to February 2027, when we have the last of the Pisces-Virgo eclipses. But 2025 is really the year to try and, I sound like a broken record, say it along with me, those of you who've been following, stabilize the part of the chart occupied by Pisces. And yes, new energies will be felt over the summer, and those energies are not, and they are important, because very often when a planet moves into a sign and therefore a house for the first time, critical or dramatic things can happen. But I'm not, when Pluto moved into Aquarius from Capricorn for the second time, but in the beginning of 2024, we had that time period between January 20th and February 20th of 2024 that you could not ignore. Because you had the Sun and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn at the very last degree of Capricorn, and they both moved into Aquarius on the 20th of January. And then March the 5th, Mercury conjuncted Pluto in Aquarius. March the 14th, Venus conjuncted Pluto in Aquarius. And March the 14th, Mars conjuncted Pluto in Aquarius. And I think it was March the 17th or 19th of 24 when Venus conjuncted Pluto. Now, an entry like that I would still maintain that 2024 was the year to really actively try and finalize Pluto's transformation of the house occupied by Capricorn in your chart that it had started in 2008. So I will place the emphasis on finishing up a long-term transit and paying attention to what it is that might be felt as an energetic shift when a planet moves into a new sign. So there could be something that feels like, okay, Neptune is now in the Aries part of the chart, or Saturn is now in the Aries part of the chart, or Uranus is now in the Gemini part of the chart. Something like that may come up. I don't know that it's going to be as dramatic as Pluto's entry, because when these planets do enter those parts of the chart, I think the personal planets are kind of, with one exception, Neptune is the exception, and that's something I want to come to. But just, I want to, that's the architecture of this year. We have one set of energies that's peaking in March and April and winding down by the end of the first week of June. We have another set of energies that, if I were to be truly accurate, starts up because there's an overlap at the end of March when Neptune goes into Aries, but really in earnest in May, and in a much more undiluted way after the end of the first week of June, all the way to September, the beginning of September, beginning to the middle of September. And then from beginning to mid-September to mid-Feb of 2026 is the third phase. The first and the third phases are linked by virtue of the fact that Saturn and Neptune are spending a significant amount of their time finishing up their cycles in Pisces. And the second phase of the summer is characterized by these outer planets changing signs. Let's just look at, from an architecture perspective, some of the dates and just get a sense of when all of this is happening. Neptune moves into Aries on March the 30th. And yes, the next couple of minutes is going to sound like a litany of dates, but just for those of you for whom this is interesting, because what I'm also going to cover is just how long these planets are going to be in their new signs. Neptune goes into Aries March the 30th, goes retrograde on July the 4th, comes back into Pisces on October 22nd, goes direct December the 10th, and then leaves Pisces for Aries for the final time on Jan 26th of 2026. And Neptune is going to be in Pisces, all in Aries, all the way to March 2039. So March the 30th, Neptune goes into, I'll now do the headlines. March the 30th, Neptune goes into Aries. He retrogrades and comes back into Pisces October 22nd. He then goes direct and leaves Pisces for Aries on Jan 26th to stay in Aries till March 2039. Saturn leaves Pisces for Aries on May 25th. And this, for me, May 25th, end of the first week of June, is really when that second phase starts. May 25th, Saturn leaves Pisces for Aries. July 13th, Saturn goes retrograde, just a week after Neptune goes retrograde. September 1st, Saturn comes into Pisces. As I said, September, October, November, December, January, middle of February, February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2026, Saturn, November 28th, so May 25th, Saturn goes into Aries, July 13th goes retrograde, September 1st back into Pisces, November 28th goes direct, and February 14th, for the final time, moves into the Pisces, into the Aries part of the chart to stay there till April 28th. Okay, so headlines. May 25th, Saturn goes into Aries, retrogrades, come back into Pisces September 1st, goes direct, leaves Pisces for Aries Feb 14th of 26 to stay there in Aries till April 2028. Sorry, I'm tripping up on my Pisces and Aries. Uranus on July the 7th moves into Gemini from Taurus, goes retrograde September 6th, comes back into Taurus November the 8th, goes direct February the 4th, and April the 26th of 26. I don't know if it's April the 20th. In April, I'm not gonna not nitpick these dates. April of 26 moves into Gemini to stay there till August 2032. So July 7th is when Uranus goes into Gemini, comes back into Taurus between November 8th and April of 26, and then April of 26 to August 2032 in Gemini. So really, it's 2026. Jan 26th, Neptune, finally in Aries. February 14th, Saturn, finally in Aries. April 26th, Uranus, finally in Gemini. It's really in 2026 that the energy really completely changes. A lot of the energy and the focus and a lot of the more dramatic astrology, we're dealing with dramatic astrology right now and coming up in March and April. I would imagine that we're all starting to feel the pressure of change and transformation. We've got 2 eclipses coming up in March. We've got Venus going retrograde on March the 1st, Mercury going retrograde March the 15th. April, the planets go direct. Mars is going direct in about 3 days' time. And, you know, all these planets are pulling back in March and moving forward in April. And we don't clear this energy till the end of April, till the middle to the end of April. And insofar as there's an eclipse that is there to be taken advantage of, that builds on energy that has been building since March, April of 2023, that energy isn't done till the end of the first week of June. So again, Neptune goes over into Aries March the 30th, Saturn goes over into Aries May the 25th, Uranus goes over into Gemini July the 7th, but these planets are then back into their old signs. Saturn on September 1st, Neptune on October 22nd, and Uranus on November the 8th. And between January and April of 26 is when they all finally flip over. So the architecture of this year, first 5 months of this year, phase 1, June, July, August, phase 2, September to February, September 25 to February 26, if you want to look at it that way, phase 3. Phase 1, do the best we can to move towards creating the new world, the new reality, by also dealing with stabilizing the Pisces part of our chart, clearing that energy as best we can in March and April so that we can focus on the new till the end of the first week of June. The new starts to build on that even more with these 3 outer planets moving into their next signs and Jupiter moving into Cancer on June the 9th. A new set of energies comes into play during the summer. But then when we get to the late summer, starting September the 1st, and then increasing in August and November, September the 1st, and increasing in October and November, God, what is wrong with me today? All the way to February of 26, we are closing out long-standing cycles for Neptune since 2012, for Uranus since 2018, for Saturn since 2023. And it's really 2026 when as Uranus starts to get into place to really trine Pluto and start that process in 26, 27, that's when we'll feel some of that energy building when Uranus comes into Gemini, July 7th to November the 8th. But it's really in 26 that that new energy starts to take hold. Now, the one final thing that I want to mention about this architecture is that when the planets do move into their new signs, and this is especially and most true of Neptune, the retrograde Mercury and retrograde Venus will conjunct with Neptune twice. Once when they're direct the first time, the second time when they're retrograde. But when they go direct, they conjunct Neptune the third time in Aries. And these kinds of conjunctions in the very first degrees when a slow-moving planet moves in. Now, I think the Sun conjuncting a planet, Mars conjuncting a planet is more dramatic. But Neptune is the one planet with Saturn. When he enters Aries, the thing that I find most intriguing is Jupiter, who will have squared Saturn from Gemini to Pisces twice. The third time does so from Cancer to Aries. And also, and this doesn't really happen until the beginning of next year, when Saturn and Neptune finally conjunct, they conjunct in Aries. But if we're talking about the summer, there are some aspects that will help announce the agenda for the tenure of these longer, slower-moving planets as they move into the new signs. I don't know that they will be as dramatic as Pluto moving into Aquarius in early 2024. And Pluto spent most of 2024 in Aquarius, actually, only in that first couple of degrees, and then came back into Capricorn. But as I said, for me, 2024 was still the year of closing out Pluto's tenure in Capricorn since 2008. Similarly, for me, 2025 is closing out the Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus transits, Neptune and Saturn and Pisces, Uranus and Taurus. That is the more, that's where the urgency is going to be. As the planets move into the next signs, they may well make conjunctions, or there may be full moons, or there will be transits that will aspect these slower moving planets in their new signs that can contribute to announcing that agenda. And I think there's no question that over the summer we will feel the shift in energy. We will feel the shift in energy. But a lot of that energetic shift and that newness is going to show up for us in 2026. And when the slower moving planets enter a sign, as I've said this with Pluto, they spend the first few years dismantling as opposed to building, as opposed to constructing. Yeah, I feel comfortable saying that. Now, I don't want to say more than this right now, because there will be more videos as these planets change signs and as these specific aspects come up. But I did want to just go ahead and put this out there so that you can get a sense of the structure of the year. and also get just my perspective on what is more of a priority, the so-called new energies that are supposedly manifesting in this year. And we know we're trying, I mean, God knows the reason why we're going through March and April and into May and June is, I mean, we're trying to manifest these new energies that we haven't been able to manifest in 23 and 24. Not completely, at least that's what the astrology suggests. So for a lot of us, it's March and April that is going to, with these eclipses and Venus and Mercury retrograde, that's going to shake us all up into action, into closing out old matters and creating space for the new, with the acknowledgement that the closing out of old matters really comes up for closing up more finally between September of this year and February of next year. So yeah, new energies will make their presence felt, but we're not done. I think what is critically important is we're not done with the old till the middle of February of next year. And once Saturn clears Pisces, the real intention of the North Node going over Pisces will become clearer in 26. Because it's a very different and distinct energy. Saturn going over a sign and the North Node going over a sign of two different beasts. It's all very complicated and murky right now. It's all very complicated right now. And the past is affecting the North Node in Pisces right now with these conjunctions building with Saturn and with Neptune. The Neptune conjunction will clear in a couple of days. And then we'll have the conjunction with Saturn prior to May. So even by the time when Saturn, and actually I feel comfortable saying that when Saturn and Neptune, by the time, this is the other thing that happens by the end of the first week of June actually, which is that the North Node's agenda in the Pisces part of the chart will become clearer and more distinct by then. Because even when Saturn and Neptune come into Pisces in this last third of this year, they're not going to come anywhere close to the North Node. Okay, I announced a couple of specials yesterday. I am doing $50 30 to 40 minute readings or surrounding a single topic or single area of focus. But more intriguingly for me, I think based on certain inquiries, I'm also offering $100 60 to 70 minute reading that is focused on the astrology of March and really on the eclipses in March, Mercury and Venus retrograde, and you know, some of these energies then continue and pick up from September to February of next year. So if you are, we can call it sort of the Pisces Aries reading, because that's where the Venus Mercury retrogrades are occurring, and we've got the Aries eclipse and the Virgo eclipse, which is on the Pisces Virgo axis. So both those specials are available. My regular reading offering for the 60 to 75 minutes is also available. So you can use the email address in the description box below to email me there and inquire about rates and whatever it is that you'd like to inquire about. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and click the wiggly bell on top so that you get notified when I, sort of the all notifications option, so that you get notified whenever I do new videos. There's a thanks button underneath this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel, or you can use the donation information in the description box below. You can contribute to the channel for free by liking this video, or or commenting on it. It gives a greater circulation on YouTube. And of course, if you find this content or my content useful, feel free to tell others about it as well. Okay, I will leave it at this. Nothing wrong with a video under 30 minutes. Thank you. Take care.